Hi, this is Emily. I'm here to share with you some really exciting children's literature finds from online and my shopping trip this week. So let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to show you, I picked up at Costco, and this is A Whale of the Wild. It's by the author of A Wolf Called Wander. She's a New York Times bestselling author. Sticker still on here is 10.99. So this book, it looks like it's going to be from the perspective of the whales, and it does have some illustration in it. So this still seems to me like it might be for kids that are a little bit older, or adults, young adults even. And what it says is, A Whale of the Wild is inspired by the endangered orcas of the Salish Sea in the Pacific Northwest, and that's where I live. These magnificent animals, much like Vega and Deneb in the story, face global warming, pollution, and starvation in their fight for survival. So it's probably going to be from the perspective of the orcas. And I love whales and I love the ocean. So I'm super excited about this book, mostly to learn more about it. I've never seen anything like it pop up so far. I picked up a copy of Sarah Plainenthal. It's over 30 years old. It was an award-winning, Newbery Award-winning book by Patricia McLaughlin. And probably I read this book as a kid in school, maybe. I don't remember. I don't remember anything about it. And it's a really short, fast read. I've heard brilliant things about it. So I don't know, how many of us really remember what we read as a kid? I mean, we might be like, oh, I know I read Hemingway in high school, or I read The Hatchet in middle school. Maybe, generally when we think about books, if we can recall that we read in school when we were young, we remember how they made us feel and the title. We don't remember necessarily what it was about, or the specifics, or even the genre or the style or the writing. And when you read something as a child or a kid, it's in a completely different lens than when you read it through as an adult. So I don't remember anything I read in school. I mean, honestly, I remember the books that I read in the 80s. I was obsessed with horse books, the Marguerite Henry, Misty of Chincoteague books, Black Gold, Sea Star, Black Beauty 2, and Black Stallion Returns. I know I was obsessed with horses. I know I loved how they made me feel, but I only recently reread all of those a few years ago, and I didn't remember anything about what they're about, but I remember the nostalgic feeling that I loved the books. So anyway, Sarah Plainenthal is often taught in schools. I don't remember ever reading it, so I'm excited to therefore do so. I picked up this at Barnes & Noble. It's called Malamander, and it has a Barnes & Noble exclusive cover. It's by Thomas Taylor, illustrated by Tom Booth. A magical blend of oddball, folklore, and humor. I'm already dreaming of my next visit to Erie on the Sea. And let me read you the back. Here you will meet a plucky orphan, a sinister man with a hook for a hand, a mechanical mermonkey with powers of prediction, an egg that can grant wishes, and the elusive Malamander, half fish, half man, who holds the town in a deadly thrall. And so it has some crossover of mystery, fantasy, and then a little bit of supernatural, some creatures and monsters. And these kids go to this kind of hotel that's run by this Malamander. That's sort of a rundown, crumbling, dilapidated hotel, and all these mysterious things start happening. And so it's kind of an adventure story. So I'll be really interested in that. There's a whole ton of writing. There's no illustrations other than what you might see at the beginning of the first chapter, which is just like a little logo. I also picked up by Kate DiCamillo, I guess she's Italian, I can never pronounce that, The Tale of Despero. She wrote a whole lot of books from animals' perspective. She also wrote Because of Winn-Dixie and I think it's something like The Adventures of Edward Tulane, something like that. Anyway, I haven't read any of her books except for Because of Winn-Dixie. This one looks like it's going to be about a mouse in love with music stories and a princess named P. It's a story also of a rat called Roscua who lives in the darkness but comes into a world full of light. So it did get really good reviews. I actually got this for $1, and it's like a brand new hard copy. I got that at Goodwill. So sometimes I do hit those stores up because you would be surprised what you can find in there. And I picked these up at Barnes & Noble. There's another video on my channel, the Barnes & Noble Classics Hardback Collection. I did a whole video showing all the books I have. that was like 4 years ago I got those books, and I didn't know there were more that I didn't have. I was at Barnes & Noble just the other day, first time since COVID started, and I saw these, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like 2 more books for my series. So it's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Aladdin and the Arabian Nights. And these are really beautiful books, and they're like $10. These are Barnes & Noble illustrated classics for children. They are not what I like to call dumbed down or cut. These are the full versions of the books. They're really beautiful books. They're heavy. I love the way they feel in my hand. I love the way they look. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, by the way, is not light reading. So keep in mind that this classic literature today would be more fitting for probably adults. Back in the day when these books were written, there were no video games and television and Netflix, and all children had were books, and you know, their literacy levels excuse me, were much higher than ours. So a classic book like this with the syntax, the language, the style would overwhelm most kids, probably even older kids. I mean, really, to go back and read these classics like Swiss Family Robinson and Treasure Island are, I believe, are more adult reading, the full versions these days. I mean, these are full text books, but it's not just the length. It's a lot of description, a lot more classic literature for children was just way more detailed and bigger words, and there wasn't cutting right down to the chase, you know, and it might actually be boring for some kids if they can even get through it. But I love the children's classics. They're brilliant writing. Nothing has ever replaced them. So I also picked up Walk to Moons and Esperanza Rising. These books are both award-winning books. Walk to Moons is by Sharon Creech. I just did a video the other day, Pleasing the Ghost, one of my Halloween recommendations for kids that I did with Short and Shivery. She wrote that also, and you know, I didn't love that book. It was all right. It was a cute little ghost story for a younger kid. But Walk to Moons is an award winner, and it's about a girl who's desperately trying to locate and find to meet her mother, and so it kind of weaves 2 different stories, from what I understand, back and forth in a very beautiful manner. So I'm really interested in reading that. And Esperanza Rising fits into the multicultural diversity realm. It's taught in a lot of schools. So this is a book I probably will be talking about in my children's literature class. I already have about 25 selections for that class that would fit into that category, very carefully chosen. This one I don't know yet because this is one I haven't surprisingly gotten to. But I know it's about a girl that comes from a ranch in Mexico who has a very happy, charmed childhood, and then a tragedy strikes, and she and her mom have to run and escape to California. And of course, there's prejudice, you know, there's racism, and there's Great Depression, there's poverty. So my guess is there's going to be a lot of overcoming hardship and tragedy in that book. And if you see anything in this video you want me to do videos of once I analyze and review them, please let me know, or for that matter, any others that you would particularly like to see, drop me a comment in this video at the bottom. These 2 I picked up intentionally because they're going to be a part of my children's literature for adult class on my module on horror, supernatural, terror, and Gothic literature, the Jumbies and the Book of Elsewhere, which most people think the Book of Elsewhere is fantasy. And it does have some fantasy adventure elements, but it also has a crossover of into the horror, supernatural, and the Jumbies is pure horror. These are books both that I've read, but I had kind of crummy, scrappy, like old and like, you know, Goodwill copies, but I wanted beautiful new copies. So when I go back through them again, when I'm going through my modules, I like to write in all the margins of my books and underline, for example. So I do write in my books, which some say is a tragedy, but when you study literature, that's what you do. So there you go. Those are my fun children's literature finds for the week. So I have an enormous box of books coming from a beautiful discount secret gem children's bookstore. All brand new condition, but discounted books, probably on average about $2 a piece. 40 books coming to me in the mail. I'm so excited because it took me like 5 hours to go through their selections to pick them. So I'm going to do a whole box opening and show you everything in that box. And I'm sure at some point I'll be reading them and you can tell me anything you'd like to see reviews on. Thanks everybody for your support and for watching.